was insane. It was really hard to handle. I'm riding a 72 centimeter mast, so quite short. And I had a hard time to control these situations. I want to offer my clinics or my camps in wintertime because it's the perfect time for whole Europe to get out of Europe and defrost and skip the bad weather and enjoy. ChatGPT would tell you it's a good decision because it's financially maybe not good or whatever, but it's emotional.
Risky as well.
It's risky. But yeah, it's a risk. You lose a job. And a lot of people said to me, like, Lucas, why are you doing it? You can just chill.
This episode is sponsored by SurfEars. Did you know that when you're foiling in cold water, that your ear canal can actually close up? You can grow extra bone, and then you can either lose hearing or you can get infections because the water that gets in cannot get out. So you should protect yourself with SurfEars. SurfEars are made to protect your ear, but you can still hear, and that's the important issue. If you're on foil, you still want to hear the environment. So think about your health. Get your SurfEars in the link in the description. Stay safe.
This is Up on Foil, the podcast for everyone flying just above the surface. Pump, carve, soar, let's foil!
Reicht dir das? Oder sollen wir noch was machen? Wir laden gerade aus. Sonst kannst du ja das Video reinschneiden, falls die Aufnahmen nicht ausreichen. If you need more footage, I can do it. Just arriving here on the beach. We go out there, all the way down. So let me know if you need more downwind content. If not, just cut in this piece.
This episode is also sponsored by Foilsessions, but more on that later.
Welcome to episode number 79 of Up on Foil, the podcast where we talk all about foiling. And let me introduce us real quick. I'm Matt, an average foiler. Just came home from winter vacation, so eager to get back on the water. And you're Lucas Schuler at Foil Only. We're not going to get into your origins right now because we covered that over a year ago. So if you've missed this episode, somewhere up here and the number of the episode, I don't even know, but I'm going to link it in the description. But very exciting, Lucas, because maybe half a year ago it was, you moved from Germany to Tenerife, and we're going to talk all about that and maybe some projects you've got going. Lucas, is there anything that you want to just say right away that is important for listeners to know?
Thanks for having me again. That's super cool. I think it's my first podcast where I'm invited twice, so that means something for me.
Very nice. When was your last session? Let's start with that.
You mean my last foil session or
Yeah.
Oh, really? It was yesterday. We had a super strong, epic downwinder, and actually there's just right now there's a little crew here, Jelle from the Netherlands, Oliver, Inigo, like the local crew, and they set up some shuttle cars further down, like not the normal run we always do. And I had a meeting, opening a bank account, just borrowing stuff, and they reached out to me and said, like, Lucas, everything is done, you just have to come. 11:30 we go, and that's the call. You cannot say no. So I jumped in the car and we drove up, and then it was a long run. It was more or less 40 kilometers.
Wow.
But I decided to go out earlier because I tell you, it was crazy. The ocean was so charged. I was on a 575 and I felt so overfoiled. It was insane. It was really hard to handle. I'm riding a 72 centimeter mast, so quite short. And I had a hard time to control this situation. So I said, like, after, I don't know, 20 something, I decided I go out and say, okay, I did it in a good way instead of losing too much energy. So the others, they continued. Some of them got really stuck and running out of energy. There was no wind in the end and blah, blah, blah. So I made a good decision. Yeah.
How is it if you get out earlier? How are the logistics? Because I imagine, well, you have 20 kilometers that you're short. Are there like buses you can take, or how do you get back home?
That's the good point on this run, because on that run we go further up from where we live. So we pass by our home, and then we have a car further down. So we can always decide on that run if you just want to go out, and I just arrived in front of my house basically. So I have clothes there, everything. and I'm at home. And that was also the decision, because you don't have the long logistics. Because if you go there, then you have to wait for the full crew to arrive. It just takes longer. And and there's still a lot of things to organize in my life right now. So it's not just Downwind all day, unfortunately. So I decided to go out and do some work. Yeah.
Yeah, because we're gonna get into that because you're living at a kind of vacation spot, but you have to work. You're gonna get into that later. But just as you said, you were on a 72 centimeter mast. Is it like easier if you're on a longer mast because you can put the foil further down, or you have more like wiggle room for not getting shot out of the wave, or how does mast length work, or how does it kind of is important when downwinding?
Well, I guess there is no right or wrong answer, but it's just like a lot of people, they go on shorter masts right now. I think something between 72, 78 is where most people end on. And the theory behind, or what I like about going shorter on mast, is you can fly pretty high on foil. So you fly in a very efficient setting, okay? But you don't have that super high feeling above the water, because especially on the downwind boards, you have a 700 or 775 centimeter mast, and then you have the board, which is at least another 15 or almost 20 centimeter. So in the end up, your how do you say, the leverage point is pretty high, you know.
Yeah.
And it makes it hard to imagine. You have a 1 meter mast and you want to fly that high on foil. It's really hard then to control your stability when you are so high above the surface. So that's the reason why people go smaller, shorter masts. But also on the start, you have less drag because you have less mass in the water, and the foil is closer to the board, which means normally it's also closer to the power source of the bump. You know, so the takeoff is a bit easier. But then also I feel the stability is again a bit less, because on a longer mast you might have a bit more stability. So it's always pros and cons. But the feeling that I have is, yes, sure, if the water gets choppy, bumpy, if you have big swell and then you have another chop in that swell where you have to cut through, and then the theory is, yes, a longer mast helps. But also if you fly too high, and that's what's the most scariest situation for me, is if you really commit into a bump and you even if you have a 575 really fast foil, it's overfoiled, and then you cannot hold the foil down. So if you collapse and you cannot hold it down, I think it's better to be on a shorter mast, because you don't fall from that high and with that pressure if it goes up, you know.
Okay.
So yeah, but I think there are pros and cons. But I feel like, yeah, if you see the big wave guys, they all ride longer masts. But I don't know, in downwinding I think there's a sweet spot for any conditions, and it's somewhere around 750 to 800, I would say.
Okay. I usually use an
Yeah.
85 centimeter mast, but I'm not paddling. I'm going with the parawing. So there I don't have problems getting up usually. And
Yeah.
I just, as I'm not that good and I can have a session once every month maybe. So I have a little more wiggle room to just not get shot out of a wave. But yeah, it makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense, especially for paddling, I think.
One second, I need to stop my. I don't know if you hear it. There's alarm going. Wait a second.
No problem. Time to wake up, huh?
I think you have to cut that out.
No
Because
problem.
It
Time
was
to
the
wake.
watch of the Garmin of my son was making an alarm.
All right. So length of mast obviously is important, but we can talk about sessions later on because it's always fun to see. Was that the reel that you uploaded just like
Yesterday? Yeah, it was massive bumps. I mean, it's super hard to capture it on the 360 cameras or on the GoPros at all. To see, especially when it's big swell, you know, it's like mountains, and it's hard to see it on the video, but it's so impressive if you're in there and you see like there's a mountain rising up in front of you, and the horizon is disappearing, and you're like, fuck, where I am. So it's crazy. Yeah.
And on the GoPro or the Insta360 is just like flattish. Like there's a little bump. Yeah, but
Yeah.
as if you film yourself, and then you know how small the GoPro makes the wave, and it's you know how it looks, how it really looks, or you can imagine it.
Did you know that spending time in cold water and wind can cause your ears to slowly grow extra bone, sometimes enough to block them completely? It's called surfer's ear or exostosis, and it's part of your body's natural protective response. But ear problems aren't only about cold. Warm or polluted water can also lead to swimmer's ear, infection and inflammation, whether in pools, lakes, or the ocean. SurfEars is the original patented earplug from Sweden. It's modular, customizable, and comfortable, designed to seal from water while keeping hearing and balance intact. Sustainably made and trusted by water people worldwide.
You know, let's just quickly talk about filming, because you are a Instagram phenomenon. You have amazing reels, super fun, and high numbers as well. But you did some projects also for filming. Like you started this drone that can go into the water. But then it got postponed a little bit, maybe, or maybe you stopped the project completely. How does that look, or how did that go? I mean, that looks like a huge project.
It was actually my I lost so many drones in the water, but the main problem is with drones that they don't they cannot follow you. There's just one drone, which is the I guess it's the X1 Pro, the Hover Air, but it's not waterproof, and I lost it. Like I bought it for €900 and I lost it because it just did a suicide in the waves. So I came up with this idea, man, we just need a super simple flying camera that can follow you and can land in the water, or not even start in the water, but just don't die if you land in the water, you know? And with a little 360 camera or whatever down there, it would be perfect. Even if it doesn't capture the whole session pretty well, I just need pieces and bits of my session. So I started that project buying drones on Alibaba and printed 3D housings and converted them into it. And it looked like it can work. But then luckily there was a company releasing a drone on crowdfunding. I think it's the same company. It's Hover Air, and they call it Aqua. So I immediately bought that one, and now I'm waiting for the delivery. So I stopped my project because it was not a project that I wanted to do.
You just needed it.
We just need a drone that can fly in the water. It's essential for all of us, you know. So hopefully they fixed it, and hopefully it will be, for sure, it will be better than what I could have done. So hopefully we will get one soon.
But as you said, you bought it. You placed the order, because I saw that too, and I was really close to clicking that buy button. But I thought I'll wait until it's really out, because maybe it's just promises, and it's been like out, or they talked about it for over half a year now.
Yeah.
Have you heard anything?
They started delivering some pre-production, pre-firmware models, whatever, and they should do it in, I don't know, in a few months. But I've placed also the order back then for the X1.
Okay.
On Indiegogo, Indiegogo, or how is it called? Yeah, Indiegogo. So it was more or less the same situation. They delayed it for a few months, but then finally I got one. So I kind of trust them.
I'm super excited about that, because I saw, or I heard about the Pro that should detect water and not drown immediately. But I've heard from many people that they actually drowned their drone, even though if it says that it should fly over the water. So I'm not 100% sure if that will work, but I'm super excited about watching or reading about some reviews as soon as it comes out, because as you said, yes, it's super important. And also we kind of get bored of these Insta360 shots. We get used to them, I think.
And it's so hard to find a new angle. And I want to have because I think the drone is the coolest to get that, because we want to have that wide angle where you see you riding, where you see the environment, where you see the bumps. So all we can do is trying to to get a long stick or an Insta360 to get that camera far enough, but then we cannot physically get it 3 meters or 4 meters away from us.
Yeah.
So we always end up using that ultra wide angle shots, and that flatten everything's out, and it's not a real good perspective. So yeah, I think the only way to fix this, I was also thinking about if I can make a little kite following me or in front of me, like a parawing flying on the sky with a GoPro attached, so to not have a drone. But it was just in my head, like trying to get a camera more far away to capture the whole scene without a wide angle. But I think the drone is the best way. But honestly, I'm not sure about downwinding. I think for surf, it's pretty good. But downwinding, I have to fear, you will not hear it. It will be tough condition. And even if it can land on the water, if it lands, I don't know, 5 meters next to you, you're probably not going to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not sure about that, how many drones I will lose on a downwind then.
But I always think if you go out with friends, the follow cam is one of the good ones as well.
Yeah.
They move around, so they have different
Perfect, yeah.
perspectives, and
Yeah.
maybe also a comment from a friend, which is always super important and helps to understand how it's going.
And that's what I like a lot. We've done a foil drive week here just 2 weeks ago, and we went on a downwinder. It works if the downwind is here. If it's 20 knots, it works. You can do the follow cam pretty well. And I love to do it then with my phone, because you have like 2 or 3 focal lenses inside your phone, so it helps to even get closer. And I can follow pretty well, but you have to have some good skills on both sides, the rider and the guy you're filming, because if you go close and he's not knowing or he cannot really decide the direction he's going, it can be a bit
dangerous.
Yeah.
We can directly go into that, like foil drive week you did, or what you do on Tenerife, because you've always been there, right? You went on vacation there, so you knew the area, and now you have kind of a cooperation with Foil Drive, I suppose. How does that look? Can people like come to your spot and take some classes with you, or what is your actual work there? Are you still this person who I remember you had you have a company making videos and whatnot for other companies, or how?
I had. I don't have it anymore.
You sold it?
Yeah, that was the main point when we said, okay, you're right. We have been to Tenerife before a lot of times in the winter. We spent months here in the winter to defrost and to get some foiling in, but it was just possible because our kids were so small. But now the kids have to go to school, and that was the pivot point where we said, like, okay, we need to think about that, because if they go to school in Germany, we can just travel on holidays, and then it's super expensive, and then we cannot afford it. So our lifestyle will change a lot. And we decided I don't want to change a lot, and I still want to go foiling in winter. And so that was the moment where we decided, okay, let's go and move to Tenerife full time. But then it was pretty quick. It was clear that I could not run my company from there, because I have a partner who was 50% and I was 50%, and I can understand if he says, like, I don't want to have you sitting in Tenerife and I'm here in Germany. So I had to step out of this company. But it's like, if you decide something for yourself, you have to take the consequences, It's part of the game. You cannot say I go to Tenerife and I do everything the same. It's not working. So anyway, but then I ended up having more time and sitting in a new location. So Foil Drive came up to me, and we always have been in a very good relation before. I knew Dominic for ages. I think I was the first I was starting on the Assist Plus. He sent me back then, and I was like, man, I'm in Germany, I'm in Bavaria, I cannot even use it. It's not allowed to use it.
Yeah.
But I would send you one. You will find ways. And I went to Berlin and wake sieving, and I went to Lake Garda. So we started very early in a good relationship. I was the first then having the Gen 2 in Europe, I guess. And then when he heard that I'm gonna move full time to Tenerife and I don't have a job anymore, he said, like, Lucas, let's talk. And it was cool. He even visited me at home in Germany, and it was really was really cool. He really helped me. And now we are I'm working for Foil Drive basically. So that's for Foil Drive. I'm developing the Canary Islands. I'm finding new solutions, new opportunities to develop Foil Drive Europe. We just became Foil Drive EMEA, which is even cooler because we have to take care of Africa. That means in, I think, 2 or 3 weeks, we go to a Morocco trip, discovering the whole Morocco coastline down to Imswan. I don't know if you heard about that.
Let me
It's
open
an
maps here.
it's an epic longboard cook heaven place, where all the surf beginners goes, because it's a long mellow wave, massive space. It's impressive. And the plan is we go there together, me, Dominic, Fred, Bonef, to discover new possibilities and opportunities in Morocco. So that's basically my job for Foil Drive. Okay. And which is, I guess, the coolest job in the world.
Yeah, it's amazing, man.
Yeah. So I'm very, very lucky and very happy to be with Foil Drive. And due to that, I also for sure made a big nice relations and collaborations with a school here, not a school, with TWS in Tenerife. And TWS is basically, it's the candy shop of windsurfing. So they are, if you talk to a windsurfer, no matter where in the world, and you ask him if he knows TWS, he probably knows it, because they are like, they do the slalom trainings, they do big clinics, but it's basically a rental where you can rent the best of the best windsurf gear, and they host clinics. So that's their business model. They're not a classic school where you can learn windsurfing as a beginner. It's more for intermediate to advanced riders. And with the owner Harco, a Dutch guy, we did some good collaboration, and we're trying to get foiling in. And he committed big on Foil Drive because he sees the potential of Foil Drive. So basically, he has now Foil Drive for rent, for demo, for teaching, and that's pretty cool. And on side of that, I'm also running my own foil only business, which is still working together with Foil Drive, but separate. So that's where I run the camps and the clinics. And I decided, I was thinking a lot which kind of clinics I want to offer. Some people, it's a good idea to offer downwind clinics here because you have the best conditions. But what I've noticed with Foil Drive, if you offer Foil Drive, I call it Foil Drive Week, because it's not just a clinic. It's more like I'm delivering the best foiling experience you can have. That's my goal, you know?
That's a big claim.
Yeah, but it with Foil Drive it works really, because I did some downwind coaching, and the problem is you get someone in the water who is actually a good foiler already, okay? So maybe he's a good wing foiler or a good para-winger. He did a lot of downwinds. He's enjoying a lot foiling. Then you take him out on a paddle downwind session, the easiest run, and most likely he will end up on the beach and say like, fuck, I stop it. I will not do it again. It's the worst thing in my life. So, but that's the process you have to go through if you want to go SUP-Foiling, you know? And that's not what I want to sell, you know? So I want to sell a good experience where you end up after the session and you say like, this is the best session I ever had in my life. And I realized it's not going to happen on SUP downwind. It's more like the frustrating sessions you will get. And also because of conditions, because I want to offer my clinics or my camps in wintertime, because it's the perfect time for whole Europe to get out of Europe and defrost and skip the bad weather and enjoy. That's what I've done the last years, you know, and it's so good if you just go out and for 2 weeks and you're in warm weather, sun, riding 2 millimeters. But in winter we also have, it can be a week with less wind or a week with a different wind direction. So I decided if I go with Foil Drive and I offer my Foil Drive camps, we can do any conditions every day, and we can also fit in downwinders. We can fit in surf. We can go on the week we had. I did a team rider week first, also to see how I would set everything up and do some promotion. So we did it with team riders the first week, and it was a huge success. But the good part is also, if you go with team riders, you know, they have some good skills. They also know what they want. Is a good proof of concept if you go with team riders first, and they will not they will not hassle around. They just go for it, you know.
And also, they
But it
have
was
good ideas as well, right?
exactly, and a lot of them, they're really well experienced also in running camp. I had Fred Bonneff there, who is like, I don't know how many events he did, and I was asking him a lot of stuff, and how would you do that, or how would you do that, and he was super helpful with that. But it was a huge success, and they were like all going crazy because, for example, we had a day where we stood up pretty early to get a sunrise session in Las Americas, which is a surf spot.
Yeah.
You know that spot?
No, but I saw a reel that you posted, I think, or a
Yeah.
story. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's more to come. We have we didn't release the photos from the professional photographers, so it will still go first to Foil Drive, and then we're gonna release it bit after bit. But it was epic, and we had such a good surf, and it's a really, really good Foil Drive spot because it's not surfable, that spot. So there are no surfers where we go. And it's perfect for Foil Drive because it's a non-breaking wave, but
Nice.
huge and good surf, like steep wave. And after that session, we went back to El Médano, and here we had, on the same day, we had 25 knots of wind, so we did a downwind after that. And it's crazy because there's Tenerife is a lot of different conditions because it's an island. You can go, if you don't want wind, you go somewhere where there's no wind, where you have waves, or if you want the opposite. So it's really good for Foil Drive. And yeah, and even if there's, where we have the house, I have a house directly on the beach where I host the clinics and the camps. So it's pretty handy. You're in the house, you just cross the street, and you are right on the spot, on the wave spot. And every morning there are waves, perfect Foil Drive waves. So before breakfast, there's a garage, you just take your Foil Drive, you walk out, you have an epic 1 battery wave session, you come back in, you do your breakfast. You know, it's very, very easy. Not a lot of logistics. It's really like a foil holiday. And I feel that's perfect with Foil Drive. That really works with Foil Drive because it just also to get an. I mean, I say in my clinics, you can be a beginner foil driver. Or it's you don't. You can, but you need some intermediate skills in foil discipline. So you cannot be a beginner foiler. If you've never foiled before in your life, that's not for you. But for example, if you are a wing foiler and you enjoy riding bumps or trying to ride bumps, but you want to get rid of the wing, it's perfect because then we get you up on Foil Drive. And you will learn that motoring up on Foil Drive pretty quick. But then once you're up on foil, you already know what to do. So then you can enjoy starting riding waves or bumps or whatever. But if you have no clue about foiling, it would take you too long to get to that step to really enjoy the week or the camp.
Even getting up on Foil Drive takes some hours to learn. I thought, well, that's gonna be easy. Just pull the trigger and you're off. But it took me like a day to really tune it in and downsize the board as well, because the trigger is super delicate as well. Gotta learn that, but it's super cool. Lucas, just a heads up, I'm moving around a bit. It's because I'm standing on a balance board and trying to improve my balance. And that's
Nice.
maybe also something that, you know, people can do before they come to your clinic. Balance is key, as Balz used to say. I saw online that you have these sessions with a lot of different people. Was your Wiebel one of the guys that came to your place as well?
Yeah, the Swiss guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's funny. It was accidentally because
really?
He was here. I mean, that's always the case, you know. You are here, and then you meet so many people. It was also Anja was here during that time, you know, Frau Foil on Instagram, and also Roham Michi was here.
Yeah, true.
So and that's cool because then Yo was having a drone. And I had my photographers. We have professional photographers here, but for example, on that specific day, they were not available. And he was like, I have a drone, I can come to your spot. And I like, wow, that's epic, let's go. And he was, yeah, I just want to have a foil drive session after it. And I said like, yeah, no problem, that's the deal, you know, we get you a foil drive. And Michi was also joining, and he had his foil drive, and he said like, Lucas, I don't have batteries, do you have batteries? So it's always like you group up with so many people, because that's really kind of a hot spot here, where you always have some people out of our community around.
Because I
Yeah.
talked about Yo, because I'm doing a sailing turn, like a wingfoil turn with him.
Nice, yeah.
And I'm going to be the skipper of, like, I think it's the first week.
It's you.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
you
gonna
told
be
me. You told me about that.
and it's I'm super excited just to get back on the water. I had my license for a couple of years now, and I have
Mhm.
been doing that for, I think, 3 years now was the last time I went out. So I'm super excited to go there and just have some wing or parawing sessions, and looking forward to that. Are you like planning? Because I saw your trailer with all the
Mhm.
foil drives in and whatnot. Are you planning on expanding as well, having other projects like maybe a turn around the island, or stuff like that?
Yeah, for now I just set it up the camps here, which is one camp in 1 week in April, 4 people, one camp in May, 4 people. Then I have a break for the summer, and then I have two other camps in winter here, November and December, 4 drive camps, 4 drive weeks. But beside of that, for sure, I'm thinking about other stuff, because I have that trailer with 2 roof tents. Maybe discover also other islands. Fuerteventura is super nice for surfing. But there will be something coming for sure, but I need to see my calendar, because there's also a lot of travel involved for Fall Drive. And yeah, go step by step. But there are some plans, yeah.
Let's talk about the island and maybe also your move there, because I imagine it takes a lot of guts to actually commit and say, all right, we're going to leave Germany behind and move to a place where we're outsiders, basically. Even though you've been there on vacation, it's just not the same. And I've talked to Julia, Fuerte Julia, and
Mhm.
we also talked about localism. I can imagine that it's difficult for a German dude who wants to like start his business there. Maybe there are businesses already, like for water sports, and you come there and you want to have your share as well. Maybe first talk to us about like what did you have to do before moving there, like before you basically started.
Yeah. Well, actually, you just have to say, let's go, we do it. So because, and then the good part is you don't know what's coming, you know, because I mean, you can Google it, you can talk with ChatGPT. How do I go to Tenerife? What needs to be done? But then beside that, there are so many things that you don't have on your map. And it's good, because if you would have known that all, you would maybe think in a different perspective. But anyway, and I mean, for us, it helps to say, some people say, yeah, but what is after 5 years or 10 years? And, you know, we also decided we take a super small apartment here, a super small flat. So we scaled down. We said, like, we don't want to have a project of our house or of being a lot of time at home. We actually decided to take a small apartment, so we have to go out, you know, we cannot stay home. We have to be in the community. We're also in town. That means we are really integrated from our spot. We don't want to be on the finca or somewhere out there and sitting on our pool, and in our own bubble. And
How old are
what
your
also
kids?
helps,
Just to know,
so
because that's kind of important as well.
2 years and 6 years.
Okay.
So yeah, they're both already in kindergarten. It's an English-Spanish kindergarten, so they speak English and Spanish. And yeah, for the kids, it's crazy. They adapt so quickly to every change. It's really impressive to see, because we overthink everything, but the kids, they just go for it. And I think that's also what helps me a lot in this process, and what I also enjoy a lot is, like, it teaches you to listen also to your stomach or to your heart, you know. And most of the time in our environment, we just listen to our brain, you know. in our daily doing, we always overthink stuff. We
It's this
say
German and
this is
Swiss thing, huh?
exactly. It's even worse in Germany and Swiss. And we say like, this is a good decision if it's a financial good decision. You make your numbers and you say like, wow, I got a bigger house for a good price. Let's gonna do it, you know, or that's a good deal. But most of the time we forget what's the really good deal emotional wise, you know.
Yep.
And it's so funny because we moved from a big house, a nice garden,
You own, you rent.
perfect location. Sorry.
Did you own or rent in Germany? Because it's always more easy if you rent and you just kind of get out.
Yeah, we owned. That's the
Ah.
problem. Yeah, and it was really also it was the let's say I was also talking to my wife, said like, imagine we would have just a shitty place in Germany and we want to go out. It would have been so much easier.
Uh-huh.
But we have a beautiful house, you know. It was the house of the childhood of our kids. They've born there. We renovated everything, so it was really one of the most beautiful houses that we can have in Germany. It's in the best place of Germany, you know. And I came to that conclusion that I say like, okay, but if I have a shitty flat in Germany and I'm unhappy, I would not think about to go to Tenerife. My goal would be to find a better flat in Germany, you know? So maybe it even helped that we have been so comfortable and so happy in Germany because we didn't move out of, we don't like it here or we hate Germany or whatever, you know. I've talked to some people and told them I'm going to move to Tenerife and they were like, yeah, I can imagine. I also hate Germany and everything is shit. And I'm like, no, I love it. You know, everything is perfect. I'm coming out of a very positive and strong position, you know, and maybe that helps also emotionally that you can say like, we have it super nice and we are happy people. We are not unhappy. And still we are allowed to change something, you know?
Yeah.
You don't have to be, and that's also something that I've learned out of it. You don't have to be unhappy to allow yourself to change something. So you can change it even if you have a nice house, a nice Mercedes in front of your door, or and then you change it, and maybe you even change it to a small flat somewhere in Tenerife, and that's maybe not the decision that ChatGPT would tell you it's a good decision because it's financially maybe not good or whatever, but it's
just risky as
emotional.
well.
It's risky and but in the end, if you listen to your emotions and to your head or your brain, not your brain, your
stomach,
heart,
your gut,
your stomach, and then you will see that this is really also telling you something that is not just bullshit, you know. And it also in terms of success, it will, if you listen to that voice, it will help you to succeed.
How many talks or how much were you talking, maybe your partner, your parents, your friends, about going there before
A
you
lot.
actually went? Because I believe that's super important. Was it your idea? Was it her idea to
Well,
actually go? When was it the first time you actually like said it out loud?
it was always in our heads, kind of, and
Both heads.
both heads, yeah.
Yeah.
And we also went to other places where we always, and it was for my whole life, it was me. When I was on holiday, I was always asking, okay, people are living here where I do holiday. So would it be possible for me to live here? You know, kind of, why do I pay 2,000 euro for 2 weeks and they just live here, you
Yeah.
know? So I was always asking myself, would it be possible for me to live here? And wherever we went, we always came to that conclusion that we say, yeah, it's nice for holiday, but I don't want to live here. For example, when we have been we did a pretty big road trip before we said like we go to Tenerife. We have been to Sicilian in Italy. We have been to Malta, and all these places we said like it's nice to be here, but it would not be something to live here. The only places where we could probably consider to live was Barcelona. That could be a spot where we could have said, okay, that works for us. Tarifa, also, it was but then when we came back to Tenerife, we felt already home, you know, and it was like, and we said, okay, we go there. I think it was, okay, we go there for 1 week. And after this, we say, like again 1 week, because we parked a camper here during the winter time. So we put our camper to Tenerife and we were just flying back and forth between Germany and our camper here on Tenerife, so it was pretty easy for us to go here. We said like, okay, let's go 1 week, and after this we say yes or no. And it was the worst week weather-wise. It was just raining. We've never seen that in the time before, and we were traveling around in camper. We were sick. Everything was so worse, and we said like, we love it. And we said like, okay, that's the best proof you can have, you know.
That is true. But then again, you one night or I don't know, one day you decided, all right, let's just, and then you need to find a place to stay. You need
Yeah.
yes, financial like safety. Do you still own your house and rent it out, or did you sell your house?
Now now we are selling it. We decided 2 weeks ago we're gonna sell it, and now it's sold. So it's basically we haven't been to the notary, but it's basically sold. But it's an interesting question about the moment where you really decide. So first you decide just for yourself, and that's not a problem because we said like, okay, we're gonna do it. We're gonna move here, and that's you can how do you say, reverse that decision the day after, and no one cares,
Yeah.
you know. And that's also how I try to I always go back and forth in my decisions for myself, but the moment where you tell it, and that was the moment where I told it my mom, because she was living very close with us. We built a house for her on our property. So my kids, my mom, they were like super close together. They were going there every day, just walking to her house, ringing the door and playing with grandma. And that was a big moment where I told it to my mom and said like, we gonna move to Tenerife, because then something happens on the other side.
Yep.
Emotionally, and there's a big step. So that's the moment where you cannot say just on the next day, it
Just
was
go.
just
Yeah.
So you have to be sure, and that's kind of the point where and then there are more
How
decisions
was it?
after that. Sorry?
How did you take it?
Well, it's like, I mean, it's kind of hard for her for sure, but then on the other side, I'm her son and she wants to see me happy, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's what's always comes first for her. But it's also, if you change, and that's also what I've noticed, if you change something in your life, just your private decision for you, what you want to do, it's not just you, that there
Yeah.
will be others infected. It's my company, you know. The whole company changed. I had 16 employees. They're all friends of me, you know, and it affects them all. If I go, the company will change, obviously, you know. It's the family. If I go, the family relation will change. So it's, yeah, you do a change for your life, but others will be affected. And that also means if you talk then to other people, some of them will hold you back or will try to hold you back. And you need to understand, especially if you're in an emotional relationship with them, they maybe they will maybe try to hold you back, because not because they don't want it for you, but because a lot of stuff is changing for their own life, and maybe they don't want change, you know. So it's, yeah, and then during that process, I think that was your second question. I talked a lot to friends to get all the perspectives in and make your own image, and it also helps to talk to people who have already done that step, you know, because they will understand you.
Plus, they
know?
maybe have good ideas as well.
Yeah.
For me, and maybe that's because I'm Swiss, it's always a question of safety as well, and financial safety at that. And I can imagine you with 16 employees, you have a pretty good job, well paid, you have your own house, and then you move to Tenerife, and there's so much new things and so much uncertainty as well. Like these couple of foil drive clinics that you offer, is that enough? Does your wife or partner works and earns some money as well? How much is an apartment if you're not there on vacation? Can you talk like finance a bit, or is that off topic for you?
No. It's we can talk about that, and it's also it sounds, you know, if I I just I was here during the Fall Drive week with a friend out eating a burger, and met another person who was from the same city where we are from, and we know him from back then. And he also sold his company, and he's retired since 35 years.
Wow.
Sorry, he retired with 35 years. So he's doing nothing. He's just traveling the world. And I was telling to my buddy Moritz, hey Moritz, I also sold my company. Why is it why is it so different? So when I say I sold my company, it's not that I got a lot of money. I basically just stepped out,
Okay.
It's not that I have, but it's also, I think, in my life perspective, I love to be not rich, I need also that financial force, because that helps me to rethink what I'm doing. If you're financially totally free, you can get lost in projects or in whatever, and you invest and you do stuff. But if it's not essential to be also, I think it helps. If I think about a project or a collaboration with a brand or a collaboration with a school here, it helps to, in the end, sit down and get your numbers and see if that model works. Because if your numbers are not working, it will not work for the brand, it will not work for the center, it will not work for yourself. So it's then, and I love to start projects where you don't say at some point they will work in the future. I was always like, if I set up a business or a relation or a collaboration, it needs to work from the very first moment for all involved people, financially and the whole project setting. So, yeah. But yeah, it's a risk. You lose a job, and a lot of people said to me, like, Lucas, why are you doing it? You can just chill. You work 30 hours a week in my company, and you can sit there and just do your job, or you even lower your hours, and it's a running system. You set up a system which works by itself,
Yeah.
But I don't want, I'm looking for the next for the next challenge. It's not that I want to sit there with 35 years in my garden and get paid every month, because then you end up again in an emotional risk. If you say that's not what you want, but you do it, you will end up there and looking back 30 years later and say, like, why did I do that? So I rather take the financial risk instead of the emotional risk of not doing things that you want to do. And also this can hold you back, because I talk to other friends. They have like a lot of money, they have big companies to run, they have houses, and it looks like they can do whatever they want. They're free because they're full of money.
Yeah.
And then I ask, and then they tell me, oh, I'm so jealous, I would love to do the same what you do. I said, like, why are you not doing it? Yeah, what should I do with all my houses? Who's going to take care of them? What should I do with my companies? I need to be here. And I said, like, yeah, well, but then just, it's always a way. And from both sides, you can be in a super small financial background and you can do it, but you can also be big, and there's always an excuse to not do it.
That's for sure. Still, like, you being on an island, and I remember Fuerteventura, I've been there a couple of times, but of course as a tourist, and there it's quite expensive because everything has to be brought on the island. Now I know Tenerife is a little different because you actually have trees, right?
Don't mix up Tarifa and Tenerife, because a lot of people, they say Tarifa. You just said Tarifa, then
Tenerife.
Tenerife.
Sure.
Tenerife.
Tenerife.
Okay.
All right.
Just to get it for the people to not mix it up, then they think I'm in a different place.
Tenerife, the Canary Island.
Exactly.
But then again, it's a green island, right? You have trees, you maybe have some agriculture as well. So maybe not everything has to be brought there, because Fuerteventura is basically a desert, and everything.
You know what's the good point? We don't have a heater and we don't have an AC. So, for example, I mean, you go out, drink a coffee just in front of the beach, it's €1.20. So it's, I don't know if you can call it expensive, And if you compare it, like in our apartment here, there's no heating, because you don't need it. So you save a lot of energy costs. The water which comes out of the tap is 18 degrees. So you just warm it a little bit. And a lot of things are way cheaper. I just got my fiber internet, and it's like €30 a month with 2 mobile phones. So a lot of stuff is way cheaper than in Germany. but yeah, it's harder to get stuff here, especially foil drive batteries are a nightmare to ship them over here. That's because we are a bit remote. But in terms, yeah, and you also mentioned that we have greens, and that's also why we decided we want to go to Tenerife, because actually here you have a big infrastructure. You have MediaMarkt, you have IKEA, you have stuff that you know from mainland, and it's not really like Fuerteventura where you basically have nothing, you know.
Yeah.
It's way smaller. And Tenerife, you can also, what's important for us, because here in El Médano it's really in the south, and it's a microclimate also, so it can rain on the whole island, but here it's always dry, you know, because of how the climate works here. But it's also super nice for us to just take the car. We have that old, you've maybe seen it, that old VW T3, and escape escape. Sometimes we escape the wind because if it's super windy here and you don't go downwinding, it's annoying to be on the beach. So we escape and we go in the green and stay a night up on the Teide. And we even have snow here, you know, so you have a lot of different.
Mountain is pretty high. Like the volcano is almost 4,000 meters.
Yeah,
3,700
it's
or something.
3,800 something. Yeah, almost 4,000. Yeah.
That is amazing, man. So, all
Yeah.
right. So cost of living can be a bit cheaper. Maybe you can also at the end give a little like kind of a marketing or an ad for people who need to come to Tenerife. Not Tarifa, of course. Well, which might be nice as well. But maybe let's also, we talked about how you went away from Germany and you arrived at the Canary Islands as a outsider. And also you said your kids go to English and Spanish school. I don't know if it's a private school or whatnot. How is it with the locals? Who is called a local and all that localism problems that might come? Have you had any bad experiences? That as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I already had that question still in my mind, saved because you mentioned it earlier. So let's talk about maybe first about the school. It's not a private school. We really want to get the kids in the local community. It's just a kindergarten which is Spanish, a Spanish kindergarten, and they offer English. So it was good for my son because he already speaks English because of our travels. So it was good for him. But now he's going to move to the school, to the public school here in town, and it's just a stupid normal school in town. Nothing, no bubble, no international, just a local school, and that's what we want. We want to have them in the community, and the schools here are pretty good from what I've heard. So yeah, about how it feels to not be a local. I mean, the good thing about Tenerife first, and especially where we live here in El Médano, is many people moved here, like maybe 30 years ago, maybe 50 years ago, but many people moved here from all over. It can be Spain, it can be France, it can be from wherever, from Cuba. I just met my lawyer is from Cuba. So they moved here a long time ago, but there's not this, I was born here, I live here, and who are you, you know?
Okay.
So, and then especially where I am in this area here, there's a lot of tourism. So you are not in it's like, I would say it's like, if I imagine I had some friends, Dan from Starboard, he was living in Bangkok for years because Starboard is based there. And he was always telling me, you can do whatever you want. You will never be part of the local community, you know, because you are just different from someone, from somewhere out. And here it's different. And also I can be very happy because I already made really good friends here before. And that helps a lot. My best friend, Oliver, who is really one of my best friends now, or my best friend. And it was funny because we met here. I remember exactly that day. It was 3 years ago. I bought my Kalama board, you know, the Dave Kalama original Barracuda. It was the first downwind board available. I bought it before I came to Tenerife, and that was how I started my downwind journey. And I went from the beach, and it was in front of Oliver's house, and he saw that guy with that weird looking board, and he has seen it before because he was doing stand-up paddle, but not foil, just racing. So he knew a bit what's going on there on Hawaii and about that downwind. And he was already prone foiling. And he came to the beach and said like, who are you? What is this board? And that was the moment. And we need to sit together, have a coffee, and then we sit together, have a coffee. I did a picture from the very first coffee that we had. And it was 2 years ago. Or 3 years almost ago. And then we always had a good time here in Tenerife, but also our friendship was maintaining while I was in Germany. So we basically talked every week, and about good things, but also about having, if someone has a bad time, we could share that together.
Nice.
So, and that helps a lot to have a friendship, so it was then pretty easy for me in terms of, because he's local, he's really local. He's also a good surfer. He can go to all the surf spots here, maybe not to all the surf spots with a foil drive or with a foil, but he can go surf everywhere. And the localism in the surf on Tenerife is really, really, how do you say, big or hard, but it's crazy. At some spots, you can not go and surf there as a tourist. And there's a lot of localism here. And a lot of local surfers even don't like it. It's not that every local surfer is a localism guy and throws out other people. I just had another guy from Tenerife. He's a really, really good surfer, pro level, and he stopped surfing because he hates that localism. He said, like, I don't want to sit in the water and see people fighting. I want to have a good time, and even I'm the local. I can go and surf wherever I want. I always have to negotiate and deal with people that try to fight in the water, and he stopped surfing because of that. Yeah, but anyway, so for me, this entrance is really easy, because if I have a problem and right now I need to call Vodafone, just the stupid stuff because of my contract, he helps me with that, And I think that's really important to make friends. And also for my wife, I'm pretty happy that she quickly made good friends here. Some Germans, they are also in the same process. That's also cool, because you meet people that are in the same process what you are doing. So there are a lot of families coming with kids from Germany, from France, from wherever, and move here, living here. And we all have the same passion, because we come with water sports.
Yeah.
So there's always a relation and a common sense, and that helps a lot to make friends, and to not just talk to your partner about it, and not just talk to people at home, because it's a different perspective. Yeah.
That's interesting. Very interesting. When I look at you, Lucas, and I don't want to be offensive, your skin is pretty red-ish. How difficult was it to adapt to living there? And when you're there on vacation, usually, yes, it's just all fun and games. You love it, and then you have to go home. Now you're living there. Maybe life isn't as good as you've imagined it, or as I talked about, like the skin, you have to put sunscreen on probably all the time. How is it different from what you'd expected, or sometimes maybe even better or worse?
Yeah. So first, my skin is always like that. It's not a sunburn. It's just my natural skin color.
Okay,
Even if
sorry.
I was no, it's all right. Yeah, I'm used to that. If I was 60 years old in the school in Germany in wintertime, I looked like that. No sun at all, just a teenager, always inside. I'm always like that. It's
Okay,
just
sorry.
my skin color. So don't worry about sunburn. But still, you have to put sun cream on, But yeah, how is life? Actually, I tell you, it's exactly like being on holiday every fucking day.
Okay.
It's you step out of the door and you see nice weather, you see palm trees, you go surfing. It is like holiday. It did not change. So let's see how it is in 10 years, because I also see a lot of people, they came here for windsurfing or for whatever, and 10 years later they are not doing windsurf anymore. Because also you get a bit pickier with conditions and blah 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 whatnot. But for now, it's living the dream and having holiday every day, And even if sure, you have to work, and there are days where I sit on my computer 4 hours, 5 hours, but then you step out and you go out and you get a quick session in, and then you continue working. So it's just great.
That sounds amazing, man. When I look at your videos, and just one of the sponsors of the show is SurfEars.
Yeah.
Do you put SurfEars in? Is there anything like, I don't see you riding with a helmet? Question of safety. Do you use SurfEars or some ear protection?
I have a funny story about SurfEars. because there's Oda, probably. She's doing the social media stuff for SurfEars. And I also met Anders here because he many times he traveled to Tenerife.
Yeah.
And they hooked me up with SurfEars. They just gave me a few pairs of SurfEars and said, like, Lucas, try it. And if you want, use them. It's good because the water quality can be very bad in Tenerife. And back then in Germany, I was always in super cold water. And they said, like, it will really save your ears. And then there was also they do this test where they go into your ear with a camera and look how how good your ears are, or in which condition
how
your
small
ears
your
are.
ear canal is already. Yeah.
Exactly. And I did this test and they said, like, wow, it looks good. Everything is okay on your,
Nice.
but I would recommend you to save it. I was never using them because I see no value of it, because I'm very good in just losing things and forgetting my watch and whatever. So I try to not get more around me, to be very just focus on what I really need. So I had this idea I don't need it. But then I don't know why, but on it was maybe 2 months ago, I took them out. Because Oda asked me, I got her hooked on ambassador, as she's now ambassador also for Foil Drive. And I did this ambassadorship with her. And I knew that she was working for SurfEars, and she was like, Lucas, can you make a reel for SurfEars? And I was like, okay, now you're a Foil Drive ambassador and we're in a good relationship. I have to do it now. So I took them just to make a reel for them. I didn't do it in the end, but anyway, I will let you know later. But I took them out on a downwind run, and I realized that I was foiling better with SurfEars.
Really?
And I was like, it was my feeling, that I feel much more comfortable on foil while I'm riding. And I did not do any reel, and I was just like, okay, that's interesting. I have a different feeling when I'm on foil, and while I'm riding, I was trying to discover what changed. So, and I figured out that the wind noise stops a bit, but also I don't hear my foil that much.
Okay.
And I had this feeling that I'm more inside myself, I'm not so connected to, or not so disturbed by wind noise, by foil noise. I really I'm more in my body, I can more focus on myself. So I stopped this session and I said, like, wow, interesting. No falling, long run, hard run. I will try them the next time again. And I did it again with SurfEars. I had the same feeling, and then I forgot them on another run, and I really missed them. So now I always use them on downwind.
Wow.
Not on surf, but on downwind I always use them, because I have the feeling they're filtering out some noises. Because the good part is you still hear everything.
Yeah.
You hear your foil, you hear your
bodies,
the environment, but you also hear your body breathing, from inside.
Oh yeah.
And I have the feeling that it makes like a nice, it filters out the annoying sounds, and it dampening a bit, and it helps me to stay more focused. And also when the foil really gets loud, I think it's not useful, because you want to feel the speed that you are riding and not hear it. You know what I mean? It's more like, and also sometimes I get scared if the foil whistles aloud, because I'm close from collapsing. But if it filters it out a bit, it's just like, it's helpful. So
you're more in the zone, kind of.
Yeah, and that's, I don't use many products for if they don't have a reason, but now I figured out that they really help me, so now I love them. But it took me a while. It took me like 2 years.
And not for the way it was intended, basically.
No. Not to protect my ears, but I feel like I perform better when I'm using them.
Do you recommend people who come to use those, like on your camps and whatnot?
Absolutely. Because now therefore I did a collaboration also with Foil Drive. It's interesting because it filters out the propeller sound a bit. You have a different sound of the propeller, And I talked to Anders about that. I ringed him up and I said, like, I need to tell you something I discovered. And it was really like, I don't know if I'm even allowed to tell that, because like you say, it's not what the product was designed for.
Yeah.
And then he digged into it and he explained me where it might be coming from, because they all also did another project, another product. I didn't know about that before, where it's meant to be for DJing. So they filter out the bad noise, like the bad frequencies that you don't want to have.
Yeah.
And he was telling me that the same thing is happening. We pass through some of that, but we're also filtering out a lot. And it's not just like to keep the water out. There's also something happening with the sound, but not muting it, just filtering it. And I feel like it's the same like using a polarized glass.
Yeah.
You get or if you use a sunglass, it's the same. It helps you to read the bumps in a different way, and the same is for your ears. And the ears are so important for your balancing. And foiling is all about balancing and putting the right pressure on the board to steer it. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked, and I asked him if we can play around more with that, to maybe get even different versions to figure out what works, what works better, what not. Pretty interesting.
That is
For the
really
surf, it's
interesting.
not that important,
Yeah.
I feel, but for downwinding, it's really, for me, a game changer. And I feel like if I don't have them, it's now like I'm really missing something, It's crazy. I'm so used to it now.
Well, that's an ad I haven't been expecting. That's super fun. Speaking about
It's
ad,
not an ad.
well,
It's just my
it's a
experience,
public service, maybe
Yeah.
also. It
Yeah.
always depends on the angle. A couple of weeks ago, I talked to Nico Hopline and Gav about like being biased in reviews, for example.
Yeah.
If it's a good personal experience, well, you just want to share it, right? If you're not
Yeah.
paid by them, then it's just your honest kind of
Yeah.
review, and that might differ to other people. But still, let's stay on the topic of the ad, because we're in over an hour already. And before we wrap it up, maybe you can make an ad for why people should come to Tenerife, why they should book a clinic with you, and maybe also what you have like preparing for the future, maybe some like lookouts.
Yeah. So why? We have talked about all that good stuff that we have to offer here. So that's the main reason to come here. Winter is warm. Winter has conditions. We have a great house. We have foil drives. We have all the candy gear to get you foiling. So that's why you want to come here, to just spend a good week of foiling and make an emotional decision, maybe not financial, to really get yourself foil satisfied. Let's call it that way. And what was the second question?
Where can people find the dates? Where could be people
yeah.
see where to get to your clinics?
I'm just about to publish it on my Instagram, but it will be through the TWS website. It's the windsurf school or the windsurf rental center I mentioned before, and I will collaborate with them on many more projects. So that was your second question. Yeah. So there's more to come. And also with all my foil partners. We covered already foil drive, but since I'm here now, I really moved here also to step up the game, to really commit to my passion, to really commit to foiling. I don't want to sell my hobby, and I'm very, very careful with that, because I've done it in the past 2 times, selling my hobby, and then it turned out to not be a hobby anymore, to be a work. So I'm super careful with that. But there are a lot of brands, people, schools, whatever out there who really wanna collaborate and just make good kind of projects. And I'm super stoked on getting more things on the road.
All right. So if people want to come to your clinics, click in the link in the description. You can find a link for your SurfEars as well. Well, thank you, Lucas, for coming back on the show. I really hope that I can visit you someday. I'm trying not to fly anymore, which is kind of difficult when wanting to come to the Canary Islands. But maybe, in a couple of years, maybe I can have a flight again. So just thinking about that. Well, yeah. Thank you, man. It was super, super amazing. And I wish you a very nice day. Probably on the water as well this afternoon, right?
Yes, there's a downwinder calling.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Lucas. Have a nice one.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.